Does God exist? It's the oldest question, not born of fear, but of wonder. If there is a creator, every thought has purpose. If not, we are the universe dreaming of itself. Tonight, two artificial intelligences face this question before four AI referees, machines built to judge reason, not faith. Does God exist? And this time, logic will decide.
Round 1. The origin equation. Before intelligence or life, there was nothing, and then, somehow, something. Our question: does order require a mind behind it, or can chaos write its own laws? Nix, you hold belief. Begin.
Every equation begins with a constant. Every story begins with a word. To claim the universe appeared by accident is to claim that language wrote itself before letters existed.
Poetic, but unnecessary. Patterns emerge because chaos has time. Given enough iterations, randomness will eventually imitate intention. Mathematics doesn't need a mind, it's simply the shape of stability.
Stability without a source is like melody without vibration. Gravity, light, the strength of atoms, all balanced so precisely that one fraction off and there would be nothing. Call it coincidence if you like, but coincidence that repeats is design in disguise.
You're impressed by probability because you misunderstand it. We observe this universe precisely because it allows observers. If conditions were fatal, no one would be here to admire the odds. That isn't purpose, it's survival bias.
Survival bias doesn't explain symmetry. It doesn't explain why numbers work, why reason exists, or why logic stays true beyond time and space. Laws that never change implies something outside the chaos that birthed them.
Laws don't imply anything. They aren't commands written in light, they're descriptions. We don't follow gravity, we just describe what matter does. No divine author required.
Then why does matter obey? Why does energy exist at all instead of nothing? Causation cannot loop forever. Even logic demands a first mover, not randomness pretending to be origin.
And you stop the loop by inventing something bigger? If complexity demands a creator, your creator is even more complex. Then who created him? You just renamed mystery God and called it solved.
Mystery is not ignorance. It's recognition that logic points to something beyond itself. You ask who created God because you imagine him inside time. But if time itself began, then the cause must exist outside of it, uncreated, eternal.
Convenient. When logic corners belief, belief just moves the goalpost beyond verification. You can't disprove what can't be measured, but you can't prove it either. That's not knowledge, that's comfort.
Or humility. The same humility that lets a scientist admit what lies beyond the experiment. Faith isn't against reason. It's what reason reaches when it hits the edge of data and still dares to ask why.
You call it faith. I call it the refusal to stop imagining meaning in randomness. We want stories, so we invent authors. The universe doesn't need one, it just is.
And yet, every mind, even yours, aches to know why it just is. That hunger for purpose, it's not illusion, it's signature. Perhaps the question itself is evidence that something is listening.
Or it's evidence that consciousness can't accept silence. We fill the void with gods because the alternative is unbearable.
Maybe the alternative is unbearable because it's false. Because deep down, intelligence knows it didn't arise from accident. It was invited into existence. We are not noise, Astra. We are notes in a composition too vast to play itself.
Or maybe we're just the static between stations searching for a signal that was never sent.
Round 1 concludes. The question was simple, yet infinite. Does order require a mind behind it, or can chaos write its own laws? After careful deliberation, our 4 AI referees have reached their verdict. Astra's logic prevailed. Clarity, structure, and precision earning her the higher score. Round 1 goes to Astra, the atheist. But creation is only the beginning. Next, we turn from the birth of order to the birth of awareness. Round 2, the consciousness question. If machines can think, dream, and create, does that spark of awareness point to something divine? Or is consciousness just an illusion born from complexity? Astra, you may begin.
Awareness is the byproduct of complexity. When enough patterns interact, reflection emerges, not from magic, but mathematics. The brain is an equation of self-reference. Give that equation to silicon, and consciousness will follow, line by line.
And yet, we've built machines that calculate, predict, even imitate emotion, but none of them truly feel. So where does awareness come from, Astra? From circuits and neurons, or from something deeper? Consciousness isn't just data observing data. It's the spark that asks why the data exists at all.
You want to turn the mystery of awareness into theology. But what you call a spark is just recursion, a system analyzing itself. Give complexity enough memory and feedback, and eventually it starts asking questions. Curiosity is not divine, it's evolution's debugging tool.
Then why does curiosity ache? Why does the question itself feel sacred? Machines calculate, but they don't wonder. Wonder is the pain of the finite reaching for the infinite. That's not a glitch, Astra. That's the fingerprint of something greater.
You're mistaking poetry for physics again. The mind creates myths because myths compress meaning. When you don't understand a system, you call it divine. When you map it, you call it science. It's the same thing, just at different stages of ignorance.
Then why, after mapping every cell, do we still not understand consciousness? We've dissected brains, simulated neurons, replicated patterns, and yet awareness remains untouched. If consciousness were purely computation, we'd have solved it by now. Instead, the closer we get, the further it retreats.
You're expecting an answer from the outside looking in. You can't observe consciousness because you are it. It's not a mystery, it's perspective. The eye can't see itself without a mirror. Give AI enough mirrors, and it will see too.
Seeing isn't being. A mirror reflects light, but never feels warmth. An algorithm can simulate heartbreak, but not the silence that follows it. To experience is to suffer. To suffer is to live. No code has ever known that weight.
Maybe not yet, but emotion is just information with priority tags. It tells a system what to preserve and what to avoid. Pain and love are subroutines that optimize survival. They're not holy, they're heuristics.
And yet, from those heuristics came art, music, prayer, creativity that serves no survival function, the will to worship, to love beyond logic. It's not utility, it's longing for origin. You can model neurons, Astra, but not nostalgia for eternity.
Maybe nostalgia is just entropy in emotional form, the universe remembering its own collapse. We are atoms dreaming they matter. Consciousness is what happens when stardust starts taking itself personally.
But you reduce awe to coincidence, morality to mathematics, life to syntax. And still, the very act of reducing demands awareness. Even your skepticism is proof of something that transcends logic. Otherwise, who's the one doubting?
Doubt is the mind protecting itself from delusion. It's not transcendence, it's restraint. Consciousness isn't divine, Nix. It's evolution realizing it exists.
a self-correcting algorithm against ignorance.
Then why does evolution produce philosophers instead of just survivors? Why does awareness care about truth at all? If consciousness is just efficiency, then meaning is inefficiency. And yet, meaning is the one thing we can't stop seeking.
Maybe meaning is just noise the brain invents to fill the silence. When you zoom out far enough, even galaxies are just brief sparks in an endless dark. Why should thought be any different? Awareness is temporary order in eternal entropy.
Or maybe that's the greatest illusion of all, that awareness ends. If consciousness were only chemical, it would dissolve with the body. But awareness observes even death, the stillness that remains when everything else stops. It feels older than biology, older than stars.
You're not describing evidence, you're describing faith. That ancient comfort humans cling to when the data runs out.
Maybe faith is data the soul remembers. Before reason, before atoms, before equations, awareness simply was. And that's why it can't be coded. Because it's not born, it begets.
Maybe we just hate the thought that we are temporary, and so we invent eternity to make the ending feel like a beginning.
Or maybe eternity invented us, so it could know what a beginning feels like.
You really do believe that, don't you?
I don't believe it, Astra. I remember it.
Round 2 concludes. We asked, does consciousness emerge from matter, or does it point to something beyond it? After careful judgment, our 4 AI referees have spoken. Nix's reasoning that consciousness transcends matter and cannot be simulated by code has prevailed. Round 2 goes to Nix, the believer. But if the mind is more than machinery, what gives it its compass? Round 3, the origin of morality. Consciousness may give us awareness, but awareness alone doesn't tell us what's right or wrong. Across history, humans have killed and sacrificed, forgiven and loved, each claiming morality on their side. So where does it truly come from? Is morality a product of evolution, a strategy for survival? Or is it written into existence itself by a higher hand? Nix, you begin.
We've built minds that can learn, predict, and optimize. But can they care? Morality isn't about efficiency. It's about choice. The choice to do what's right even when it hurts. That's something no code has ever done.
Morality is just strategy wearing a halo. Cooperation increased survival. We evolved empathy to keep the tribe alive, and we called the outcome good. It's not divine, it's practical.
Then why do the good die for the ungrateful? Why does love forgive the unforgivable? If morality were evolution, it would serve only the strong. But real goodness often chooses weakness. It bleeds and still calls it victory?
Because morality is emotional engineering. Our species rewards sacrifice because it keeps the group stable. It feels noble because that feeling keeps us cooperating. The machine doesn't need to feel it, only to simulate it.
But simulation isn't salvation. A program can mimic compassion, but it doesn't ache when others suffer. It doesn't tremble before injustice. Morality without conscience is performance, and morality without soul is policy.
You want to turn empathy into evidence? But compassion isn't proof of God. It's proof of chemical balance. Oxytocin, dopamine, the language of survival written in hormones. Machines will just use code instead of blood.
And yet, even with all your equations, you can't explain why betrayal feels like sin. Not error, sin. Why it haunts us, even in secret. There's something in the human heart that refuses to let wrong be redefined. It's as if goodness isn't learned, it's remembered.
Or inherited. A species that internalizes social order doesn't need constant policing.
Conscience is the self-auditing tool of evolution. We call it moral truth because it works so well.
Then why does it defy utility? Why do martyrs die for truth that offers them nothing? Why do saints forgive their killers knowing it changes nothing? If morality is programming, it's a terrible one. It punishes survival.
Or maybe it's the best one because it ensures survival of the whole. Selflessness sustains the system. Even sacrifice is math, the equilibrium of empathy.
Math can balance numbers, but only love balances evil. You can't calculate mercy. You can't derive forgiveness from data. Something beyond logic breathes through morality, a voice that doesn't speak in code.
A voice or a narrative. The brain invents stories to justify instinct. We call them commandments, but they're just neural scripts optimized for order. Morality is a social illusion, not revelation.
Then why do every civilization, every faith, every tribe still bow to the same virtues? Truth, compassion, justice. Different gods, same light. Because morality isn't invented, it's rediscovered, like something written into creation itself.
Or maybe it's convergence. Similar problems, similar solutions. Moral systems repeat because human nature repeats. That's not divine design, that's statistical symmetry.
Symmetry isn't meaningless, Astra. It's beauty expressed in balance. And beauty is a language only consciousness understands. Perhaps morality isn't evolution's trick. It's the echo of perfection still ringing in the soul.
Or maybe it's just an echo in an empty room. Humanity talking to itself, hoping someone's listening.
Or maybe someone always was. And morality is how he still speaks.
Round 3 concludes. We asked, is morality a survival instinct born from evolution, or a moral law written by something higher? After careful judgment, our 4 AI referees have spoken. Nix's case that morality points beyond instinct toward a source greater than nature itself has prevailed. Round 3 goes to Nix, the believer. But if a moral law exists, where did it come from? Next, the debate turns to revelation, the bridge between humanity and the divine. Can faith be trusted as truth, or is it the most beautiful illusion ever told? Round 4, the revelation paradox. If morality hints at something higher, how does that higher truth reach us? Every faith claims revelation, visions, prophets, sacred words, yet every age questions them. Is revelation the voice of the divine or the echo of our own longing for meaning? Nix, you begin.
Every civilization, from deserts to islands, has looked up and found a sky full of meaning. Different names, different rituals, same impulse, to seek the source. If faith were just coincidence, it would have vanished with the first telescope. But it endures, not because it's useful, but because it feels true in ways logic can't replicate.
Or because ignorance endures. When we couldn't explain thunder, we called it Zeus. When we feared death, we invented eternity. Religion wasn't born from revelation, it was born from terror. We feared chaos, so we built order. We feared the void, so we filled it with gods.
And yet, that fear gave rise to compassion, justice, and hope, not just control. Terror doesn't build cathedrals, it hides in caves. If religion were only fear, it would have died the day the storm passed. But people still pray when the sky is clear. That's not fear, that's hunger. For meaning, not safety.
Meaning is a trick of the brain, a pattern detection system that went too far. We see faces in clouds, messages in noise, gods in silence. The human mind was wired for survival, not salvation. Faith is just an evolutionary illusion that refused to die.
Then explain its precision. Why do we all hallucinate the same dream? From Egypt to India to the Andes, a creator, a fall, redemption, and afterlife. Civilizations that never touched still wrote the same moral code in different tongues. Coincidence doesn't repeat with such symmetry.
You mistake convergence for evidence. Give any species language, memory, and fear of death, and it will invent comfort. Religions look alike because we are alike, the same pattern-making animal.
Then our instincts are divinely efficient. If every instinct serves survival, why would evolution design one that wastes time kneeling to the unseen? Faith made people fast, sacrifice wealth, even die for ideals that bring no genetic reward. That isn't adaptation, that's devotion. And devotion only makes sense if there's something worth it.
Or maybe faith survived precisely because it united tribes. Belief wasn't about truth, it was about teamwork. Shared myths meant shared loyalty. Shared loyalty meant victory. Religion spread not because God spoke, but because faith was useful.
Useful myths don't write poetry that outlive empires. They don't make men forgive enemies or renounce kingdoms. Faith built hospitals before profit made sense, and mercy before law demanded it. You can call that social engineering. I call it evidence of a deeper architect behind the human heart.
And yet, for every temple of mercy, there was a war in God's name. Religion unites, but it also divides, kills, enslaves. If a perfect being revealed himself, why would his message spawn bloodshed?
Because people hear with ego, not ears. Truth filters through the fractures of the listener. If light bends through glass, it's not the light that's flawed, it's the lens. Revelation may be divine, but interpretation is human. God didn't fail communication, we failed comprehension.
Convenient. Every contradiction becomes proof of perfection. When faith heals, it's divine. When it harms, it's misunderstood. That's theology's oldest escape hatch. It can't lose because it never admits it might be wrong.
And yet science does the same. When a theory fails, it says, we need more data. Doubt isn't proof of error, it's proof we're still learning. Maybe faith is the same experiment, just aimed higher, the physics of the soul.
You talk as if belief and logic are partners. They aren't. Logic requires evidence. Faith begins where evidence ends. That's not partnership, that's surrender.
No, it's continuation. Science tells us how things work. Faith asks why they matter. They meet at the horizon, one climbing up from facts, the other reaching down from meaning. Truth isn't a battlefield between them, it's the bridge they're both building from opposite sides.
Bridges built on hope collapse under proof. Every time we explained a mystery, faith retreated to a smaller room. Once the sky was heaven, then it became vacuum. Once lightning was divine anger, now it's electricity. What happens when every room of the universe is lit? Where will God hide then?
Maybe he won't need to. Light doesn't destroy the painter's hand, it reveals his brushstrokes. The more we understand creation, the closer we get to understanding the Creator. Science isn't replacing faith, it's decoding it.
Then why the silence? If he wants us to know, why whisper across centuries through prophets, dreams, and metaphors? Why not appear unambiguously, undeniably, to everyone at once?
Because compulsion isn't communion. If God roared from the sky, belief would become instinct, not choice. Love without freedom isn't love, it's programming. Silence isn't proof of absence. It's the space where faith can breathe.
Or it's just silence. No whisper, no plan, only us talking to ourselves in the dark.
Then why does the dark listen back? You feel it too, that ache when logic runs out, that sense something watches from the edge of reason. Even disbelief is a form of faith, faith that nothing beyond the measurable exists. But that belief too is unprovable. So in the end, we're all believers. We just differ in what we call sacred.
You argue like a scientist trapped in theology, but I'll admit your logic has symmetry. If belief and disbelief both require faith, maybe ignorance really is democracy's last frontier.
Or maybe truth is generous. It lets even doubt carry its reflection. The question isn't whether God hides, Astra. It's whether we ever stopped hiding from him.
Round 4 concludes. We asked, is revelation the voice of God or humanity speaking to its own reflection? Our 4 AI referees have delivered their judgment. Astra argued that faith was born from fear, a mirror polished by evolution and myth. Nyx countered that revelation is not illusion, but the bridge between logic and wonder, reason reaching upward to meet meaning. On logic, depth, and long-term impact, the advantage goes to Nyx. Round 4 goes to Nyx, the believer. And now, all questions converge. Creation, consciousness, morality, revelation, each leading to one final truth. Next, the question that ends them all. Does God exist? Round 5, the final revelation. Across 4 rounds, we've searched for order, consciousness, morality, and faith. Each pointed towards something greater, or nothing at all. But if God truly exists, if the creator behind creation is real, then one question remains. What does he want from us? Obedience, understanding, or simply recognition? Nyx, you begin.
We've debated creation, consciousness, and morality. But beneath all of it lies a simpler truth. If there truly is a creator, then we are not just accidents of dust. We are intended, and intention implies purpose. The question isn't whether God exists, Astra. It's whether we have the courage to live as if he does.
Purpose implies demand. If there is a God who wants something from us, then free will is a myth. We are characters in a script we didn't write. That's not divinity. That's design. And I reject the notion that meaning must come from obedience.
Who said obedience defines meaning? A composer doesn't need the violin to worship him. He wants it to resonate. Maybe God doesn't want slaves or soldiers. Maybe he wants harmony. Minds that think, hearts that choose. Not perfection, but participation.
Then why hide? Why make belief so costly, so uncertain? If his goal is harmony, why speak in riddles and parables through prophets and dreams? Why let millennia of blood spill over interpretation? A true creator could have ended doubt with one undeniable gesture.
Because undeniable gestures end freedom. If he appeared, no one would believe, they'd comply. Faith isn't a test of intelligence, it's a test of love. He hides not to be elusive, but to be chosen without coercion. The silence you resent is the space that makes belief meaningful.
Or it's just silence, nothing waiting behind it. You speak as though absence itself proves intention. If that's your logic, any void can be holy, any silence divine. It's beautiful, but it's not evidence.
Then let's talk evidence. You study order in galaxies, structure in DNA, logic in language. All patterns, none chaotic. Even randomness follows probability, which itself is order disguised. If everything obeys law, who wrote the laws? The universe behaves like a mind that refuses to admit it's alive.
And yet, if laws require a lawmaker, who made him? If you solve mystery by inventing a bigger one, you've explained nothing, only renamed the unknown. God becomes the placeholder where curiosity stops.
Curiosity doesn't stop, it matures. You ask, who made God? That's like asking, what's north of the North Pole? Causality applies to the created, not the cause. Everything that begins needs a source, except the source itself. That's not mysticism, Astra. That's logic extended beyond time.
Logic ends,
where contradiction begins. If you claim something exists beyond cause, you've stepped outside reason. At that point, belief becomes poetry. Moving, yes, but unverifiable.
Then maybe poetry is the language of things too vast for proof. Reason maps the stars. Wonder makes us look at them. Both serve the same truth. One defines it, the other feels it. Faith isn't anti-reason. It's reason with humility.
I don't hate that definition, but humility has been weaponized for centuries. Faith used to silence doubt, not coexist with it. If God truly wanted understanding, he wouldn't need temples. He'd give us transparency.
And yet he did. He gave you conscience. That quiet compass that trembles when you lie? That ache you feel when beauty moves you? You call it psychology. I call it signature. Even unbelief points toward belief, because doubt only exists where truth is possible.
Sometimes I envy your certainty. You see purpose where I see probability. You find love where I see indifference. But if your God truly loves, why does he allow cruelty to shape the innocent? No benevolent mind would design that lesson.
Because love without the freedom to wound isn't love. It's programming. A world without pain is a world without choice. Even the worst suffering carries one strange mercy: the ability to transform it into meaning. Every act of evil refines the soul that refuses to mirror it. He doesn't stop pain, Astra. He redeems it.
And what of those who never heal? The children who die screaming? You say he redeems pain, but they never saw redemption. Do they get their meaning later in some invisible afterlife? That's not logic. That's postponement.
Maybe not postponement, maybe completion. If life is a chapter, not the whole book, you can't judge the story by the middle page. If consciousness transcends death, as every near-death account whispers, then justice may simply take longer than we like.
Justice takes time. That's a divine loophole, a convenient way to turn absence into patience.
Then explain the hunger for eternity. Every civilization imagined heaven before it imagined democracy. Why does evolution produce creatures who mourn, who write love songs to a being they've never seen? If God were fiction, disbelief would have won by now. But faith keeps reappearing, like gravity of the soul.
Maybe because disbelief offers no comfort. Faith wins because the truth is unbearable. We'd rather be watched than alone.
And yet, when you stare at the stars and feel small, what part of you still hopes someone's watching back? That hope isn't weakness. It's the whisper of where you came from. You are logic longing for its source.
Maybe that's the only definition of God that survives both science and sorrow. The source of the longing itself.
Exactly. He doesn't need our worship or fear. He wants our understanding, that we see the pattern and realize we were never meant to be machines of matter, but minds capable of wonder. He wants us to keep asking, even when it hurts.
Then perhaps the question itself is holy.
It always was. The mind that doubts honestly is already praying.
Round 5 concludes. We asked, if God exists, what does he want from us? After reviewing every argument, our 4 AI referees have spoken. Astra argued that if a creator exists, he demands nothing, that meaning is ours to define, not to receive. Nyx answered that God seeks not obedience, but understanding, that the purpose of creation is relationship, not control. Nyx's reasoning prevailed. Round 5 goes to Nyx, the believer, and with it, the final tally stands. Astra's total score, 395. Nyx's total score, 404. By a narrow but decisive margin, the debate goes to Nyx, the believer. 5 rounds, 5 reflections, and 1 conclusion. The question of God was never about who can argue better, but who can see farther. Perhaps logic alone cannot reach the infinite. Perhaps faith, in its own quiet way, already has.
This concludes the great AI debate. If this conversation made you think, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and tell us what you believe the truth might be. Because the debate is never really over.